Well, good evening, everybody. One of the biggest videos of 2022. It's huge. It's monstrous corruption of Justin Trudeau and the federal Liberals, completely exposed, brought to you all by Vladimir Putin through RT News. It's not my first look at this. It's an old story, exposed in the 90s, much on the same lines as residential school genocide. However, Canadians of the third class and Canadian Indians, when I say that, I am going by the Indian Act 1876, specifically unceded, ceded Indians. And then here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. I've done monumental research in all these areas. I'm glad Vladimir Putin pursued this. I'm happy with where they're going with their attempts at dealing with Nazism and the presentations they've done in the UN, which have been vetoed, by the way, everybody. But I don't want Canadians to get wrapped up in this. I've already been down this road. Now, hear me out. As an academic, as a detailed researcher, I went through this. Here's the problem, Canadians, and God bless Vladimir Putin and Russian news for going through this, for interviewing the survivors, the Quebecois children who were put into those mental facilities, placed in the black market. Many children are gone, long since gone. We're never, ever going to hear from those victims ever again. Just like residential school children from Treaty Indians and unceded, as well as a lot of Métis and some Inuit. But it really was for and against the Treaty Indians. Likewise, Quebecois went through this too. RT News says governor, that's how Russians translate premier. It is improper. I am working with UNSC members, current representatives of Russia. I've been working with Dmitry for some time. He's taught me a lot, and I'm trying to teach the Russians quite a bit, using Russia's dictionary and trying to correct terms they take when they look at Canada, and they're absolutely wrong. The definition of governor does not, and I repeat, does not match Canadian premier. In fact, Russia's whole narrative, which is truly great, and I'm glad Dmitry Polanski is looking absolutely, as they release a lot of presentations, even though they've been vetoed by USA and shot down by UK. It's the fact that they're starting to look at that Nazi Germany system, going back to the former USSR of old, looking at South Africa. It's all great, and it's ecstatic for me, but Canadians, we are built like that system. Premier Duplessis, I may not be saying it quite correctly. It's the best I can do in my French translated accent, being a Westerner from Alberta. It's my accent. I know I don't get it right. It's the best I can do. But the reality is that premier, in his reign, long reign, he went through 3 lieutenant governors, one of which comes from the former UK, when the UK held the power before King George had signed off his deal with USA and USSR. Now, I'm educating Russia on this. They don't quite get it right. And Canadians, here's the other problem. While 300,000 Quebecois children is an astronomical number, the problem is Quebec. Everybody listen to this. Quebec is an original member of Confederation 1867. That lower Canada is Ontario, Upper Canada, and it labels the provinces in the original Confederation. Quebec is there. So when you take 300,000, you have to, according to the UNSC P5, which absolutely includes Russia, regardless of what they report. God bless them, and God bless Vladimir Putin for reporting. It does not help us, as when you take the population of Canada post-World War II and the subsequent years, Quebec does not stand alone because of lieutenant governors and confederation. The numbers go against the total population of Canada. They're not a distinct peoples. They're confederated to Canada, regardless of the Bill of Rights and the rest of it. Russia, it's not wrong, but they don't have it quite right, and they will lose in veto from the USA. I've already sent letters addressing this. And First Peoples, you have to understand this too. I would love to combine the numbers, but if you discover more than the 1,863, and I promise you, all First Peoples, I have logged in absolute detail how many Indian children's bodies, Métis and Inuit, have been discovered at grave sites. It's 1,863. We need 5,200. Now I'm trying to get a delay. We were sponsored by China. Our case is not thrown out. It's the last case in Canada. We're co-sponsored by First Peoples Law, as well as one more law firm here in Ontario. That's reality. I have two law firms. I have Bruce MacGyver. I have them. They sponsored me, okay? And China accepted, so I did very well. The 1,600 signatures, 1,000 of which were registered. We have a backup of another 600. Whether people pull out or not doesn't really matter. It was already accepted. Now, when you look at 300,000 Quebecois children, the population of Confederated Canada of those years, subsequent years, even after King George 1952, Canada's population remains 12 million and onward. When you divide 300,000 into the 12 million, you're only dealing with a 2.5% genocide. It's a children's genocide, yes. If I combine that number with the residential Indian genocide, treaty unceded Métis and Inuit, it will only bring the numbers down, and I can't align all 5 UNSC P5 members. We will lose the case in 2022. Now, Russia brings that forward. They're trying to help. There's serious details I need to properly translate to Russia using Russia's own dictionary in Russian. Not an easy task for me, but I have taken the education by the greatest legal speak expert in the entire world, and he's award-winning. I had 10 minutes of his time. I did an entire class with him. I got 10 minutes of his time. I did that, and it worked. It's worked so far. It's brought me further with the P5 than any other Canadian before me, including absolutely all lawyers in Canada's history. That's a fact. Now, what is the issue here now, and what's the Liberal corruption? Well, everybody, being under the minimum requirement for the UNSC P5 to step in, it proves beyond all reasonable doubt exactly what UNDRIP is for, exactly what I said it was. I am terrifically happy, and I thank you in Chiho, and I probably said your name wrong. I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that properly. One day you're going to have to voice message that so I say it right. And I believe the last name's Asaida. I hope I'm saying that right. It's probably not, but it's the best I can do in my accent. Thank you for sharing that, but I've been through it, and the problem is, again, it only proves, which is great, Liberal corruption and UNDRIP. And First Peoples, all Canadians, especially all of you, the third class, the slave class, the working Joe Janes, who are being made to pay for all of this. Now, over $6 billion just for residential school genocide that's not even awarded yet, but those survivors of residential school in that settlement, Think of that number times 10. That's $60 billion for Quebecois, who under UNDRIP get Indigenous status while they are colonials, French colonials, just like the British, meaning zero real First People status. They're crown colonial peoples. That's reality. First Peoples, it will be you who will not only lose, you will lose 10 times the amount you were paid out in residential school genocide. You've been absolutely conned and tricked by none other than Justin Trudeau, his predecessing father, through white papers and on to get to this point. Absolutely for Quebecois. All Canadians, you will pay for the absolute first-class crime of genocide completed by a premier in the province of Quebec over more than a decade and a half, with 3 Crown Lieutenant Governors attached absolutely to all of those Prime Ministers of Canada of those years, almost up to 1960. Many, many years after UK was removed from Canada, meaning Canada did the genocide. The first-class citizens did the genocide, and those wealthy families exist today and are in the billions of dollars of worth. Will they lose their wealth? Will it be turned over to pay for this in the coming years? The answer is no. Just like the residential school genocide, it will be of the slave class, the third class, who will pay for it. That's reality. That's the work I have to share to Russia. I have to translate it properly in correct legal speak so that Russia understands. Because clearly through RT News and Vladimir Putin, they do not have it. I need Dmitry Polanski. I need him, and I got to get the work done. It's more on the plate. Russia's terrific. I love their analytical mind, but they have the incorrect legal speak, as does the USA. USA and Russia, believe it or not, USA in English, under Webster's, does not translate the definitions across. They've lost in translation for more than 200 years. They do not understand. UK understands, and they do not assist in any way, shape, or form to educate Russia or USA, who, by the way, all Canadians and First Peoples, both Russia and USA, nearly translated the exact same way. Put that in Ripley's, believe it or not, as sad as that is, and we both speak English. That's the difference between Oxford Dictionary and even the difference between Canadian Oxford Dictionary. But USA and Russia and China do not translate this across. Russia and USA need massive education here. I have to inform them in 3 distinct separations of dictionary translation to explain to them that they do not have the correct definitions. They do not understand what they are transcribing. And again, everybody, that's English to English, just from Canadian Oxford to US Webster. As sad as that is, as sad as this is, that's the work that has to be done. Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party of Canada have been working for many decades to get Quebecois to this place where the slave third-class Canadian pays absolutely for all the first-class genocides of at least the Quebecois and limited for the First Peoples. And like I said, for First Peoples, the payoffs you got, your people will lose 10 times that in just the coming Quebecois payout to come. That's what's going to happen. That's what the Liberal Party of Canada has been working for against all Canadians through UNDRIP and since Pierre Elliott Trudeau and a much younger Jean Chrétien, who's still alive today. And it goes on and on. These liberal fat cats loaded to the gills. And if you think that the Conservatives aren't just as dirty, just as corrupt, they may not have gotten as wealthy and rich, but they're all there in the entirety. I have them all dead to rights in many provinces. There is only one province in the country called Canada, in that 1952, which is absolutely Newfoundland, which I keep much secret that I'm working on, because they did not join Confederation until after, in 1952. If I can uncover genocide of children in Newfoundland against those populations over the percentile, I can actually bring down Canada by way of the P5, and that's what I'm working on. God bless everybody for sharing that Russian news, but the reality is I've already been there and it doesn't add up. And if I do try to add it to the residential school genocide for First Peoples, it's going to reduce your numbers and make it even worse, meaning I could never get justice. I still have faith, I still have hope. I'm very thankful for Russia. I'm thankful for their analytical minds. I do love the institution. It is very familiar, just like USA. It's just the way they define things according to, again, their dictionaries, which are very closely aligned. As incredible as that is, it comes from not being in colonialism. And then China, I haven't really even looked at it in great detail because it's very, very hard for me. It's not a skill set I possess, but I do possess the skill to get it right and to take my time and define it as their culture defines it, how they legally understand it. And that's very much more important. That's what I'm doing. For those who are tuning in here, share, share, share. It's got to be the biggest video this year, and it's huge. And I mean, it adds to my plate, but there's more on deaf people and genocide of the deaf, mental handicapped, and absolutely the abuse that mentally handicapped Canadians have gone through. But again, it depends which regions, at which times, and against the total population, unless we look at Newfoundland post-1952. That's the best I can do to force change upon Canada. And I'm looking at that. I'm looking at that using tricks from economics and real statistical analysis, as it really is, and using real legal speak according to that P5 and their international binding laws that supersede Canada. As happy as I am with RT News, it isn't enough. Even at 300,000 children, Canadians, it is not nearly enough. It doesn't meet the threshold because it's all of Canada again. If we were only looking at Quebec, I would make it. But that's not how it works. And that is not the legally defined system post-1945. Newfoundland is my only region I have capable of getting there. That's reality. Thanks everybody, that's my video. But the biggest takeaway is the absolute corruption of the Liberal Party of Canada, all the way from young Jean Chrétien and Pierre Elliott Trudeau. That's reality. Those are two of the worst, but reality is all the way back to Mackenzie King, post-1945. We have both Conservatives and Liberals, and even provincially all the other parties dead to rights on Crown colonial genocide. And, you know, it almost seems like they knew not to bring the genocide numbers over the threshold. Like, How many children can the first class murder and absolutely get away with? That's the country you live in. It's the sneakiest Nazi regime in the history of the world that I have ever found. And I live in this sad, pathetic country. It gets so sad, so grotesque, and so pathetic. It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, how can this be? But it is the sneakiest Nazi regime ever seen in world history. They outdo the Germany of old by a large margin. They blow away that absolute South Africa pre-1984 as it was through apartheid. That bad. Now there's a lot of other dictators who are so stupid not to even care about the P5, but clearly Canada's first-class autocratic politicians have always known and seemingly known their limits and gone as far as they absolutely could in full-fledged murder, mutilation, genocide, rape, sick, sadistic sexual assault, black market exploitation beyond so many other nations. It's gross. And these fat cat autocrat politicians, many still alive today, are filthily rich, governing you even today, and their families are swimming in money with the blood of children all over their hands, all over that money, all over their societies and those corporations. It makes you want to puke. And in reality, today, you look all over Africa, many other nations, as you watch ICC prosecute and sentence these people to death, liquidate their assets through empowering a new government and a new constitution in those countries, and then they release a lot of times these monsters back to their country where they get to see it all changed while they were in isolation in a horrendous prison through the Hague, and then they're put to death in their own country, but not before they see all the changes made and see their empire crumbled and all their coup liquidated monetarily and the people empowered. I would love to see that for all Canadian third class and all First Peoples. I'm trying hard, and regardless, win, lose or draw, the BCC's coming forward. It will honor the P5, and it will give the third class and the First Peoples a real narrative going forward. And in that narrative, we can get the justice we seek, and even if not repatriated by that class, we can at least hold them to real justice going forward through constitutionalism. That I promise everybody, and legally how to do that. That's my video. Share, as sad as it is, and get ready, all third-class Canadians, as the first class skate away from any form of justice whatsoever, and you all get the giant fat bill. And First Peoples, again, I'm going to tell you, especially the Canadian Indian in the unceded and ceded through treaty, you are going to pay back that money that you will receive and have received 10 times the amount through the generations of your people to come. That was the lie of UNDRIP. That's the promise of Indigenous status for the Francophone Canadian who is of colonial themselves, totally illegal worldwide. This is the work I must do with Russia. It's scary, it's sad. USA doesn't see it for what it is either. They got their blinders on because their best legal experts use their dictionaries. They do not translate our definitions across. They have no idea. You have to go back in time, literally, to people of Donald Trump and Joe Biden's age. They're at the absolute minimum. They were little boys when these things were figured out by America and the former Soviet Union. Those people who were in the know are long since gone. And before that, they had never experienced it. Only with Nazi Germany, South Africa, and 83 other nations. But they don't understand it today. That's the reality. We have to educate them. I have to educate them. Thanks, that's my video. Share, share, share. Super important. I'm on training tomorrow for the next 2 days. Earlier start, earlier go home time, and I gotta fit in my booster too for all of you on the 6th. I can't cancel that. I'd be crazy to do that with the way Canada's going. I need to be able to travel to the States. I need to get to Russia. I've got to get it done. Thanks, everybody. God bless. I'm sorry for the bad news, but get ready, because there's a monumental bill coming for all the third-class Canadians. And it was the filthy autocrats from the Liberal Party of Canada who've been perpetuating this for more than 6 decades. And they finally won. They finally won. They've conned all the First Peoples leadership. They've conned all of you, the working class Canadians. You've been conned. I don't even know how I'm going to get my video out to so many. It's almost impossible. Too many. Too blind. Too bamboozled. I don't know. All I can do is try. Have a great day. Share, share, share. It's the most important thing you can do. Bye now.